Hello everyone, welcome back. This is the 5th video in our Choosing Joy series, and today we're lucky to have special guest Keyra with us. Keyra's going to share her story with us and tell us about how she found happiness during harder times in her life. So I'm going to let her take it away. Keyra, tell us all about your story.
Okay, so my story is about the loss of my daughter. She would have been 7 years old this year, this year. And we found out at 11 weeks pregnant that she was terminal. She had a condition called anencephaly, where the actual skull does not form over the brain. It's considered one of the worst forms of spina bifida. It was traumatizing to hear at your first appointment, literally that something's wrong. So after they said, let me get the doctor, I already knew, like, there's something really wrong here. Did the ultrasound and she kept telling me, turn this way, turn that way. We tried to scan and she's like, I need to talk to you, something serious. And she said, I think there's something wrong with the skull, so let's send you to a specialist in Houston. We headed that way. I'd say I was like 13 weeks at that time, and they scanned us, and it was one of the most detailed ultrasounds I've ever seen, and you could actually see there was missing, skull. It was devastating because we had to grieve her from the beginning. There was no joyous time like, oh, we're having a girl, and at the time we found out we were having a girl too. So she would be my third daughter.
Okay, so you've already been through this process before, so you
Right.
just could sense something wasn't right.
Yes. So then, we contemplated, whether we wanted to have her or not, because the choice was there at 13 weeks. That, old me probably would have said, yeah, let's, if I have the opportunity to, have an elective abortion, let's do that. But now, since she was my third, I was already a mother. I experienced a child. You don't want to miss those things. You don't want to miss looking at the eyes. You don't want to miss looking at the hair, the hands, the details, the things that you gush over when you have a newborn. I was still going to see that on her. So I didn't want to miss out on that. So it just wasn't I just did not want to do that. We continued with the pregnancy. I decided that I was going to try to be as positive as possible during the pregnancy so she could feel positivity. I don't know, something inside me was saying, don't be too sad. I don't want her to feel that. I don't know if they really can, but I just thought that's what I want to do. So we did a lot of things. Everything I did with my other two, they were 3 and 6 at the time. I would say, oh, look, your sister, she would probably do this with you, come talk to her, as they would play on the swings and come back and talk to her and, just interact with her so she could hear her sisters. They did tell me, though, that she might not make it past 20 weeks of pregnancy, but she was going strong. So at any moment we could have lost her, but I never felt like we were going to lose her. So we had her at full term, 39 weeks. I went in, had a C-section. She came out, she cried. A lot of the things that I grieved over during the pregnancy were a lot of the things she did. I thought I'd never hear her cry a little bit, because most of the time her condition, babies don't really cry. I never thought I would change a diaper, because I thought it was gonna be, she was gonna pass right then and there. I never thought that I would, I bought a minivan before I had her, or knew we were going to have her, because I wanted to fill it up with children. So I thought to myself, I'll never fill up my minivan with kids. She'll never ride in that minivan with us home, but she did. And a biggest thing is, I'll never experience that breastfeeding moment with her like I did with my other two. And she breastfed.
That's amazing.
Those are the things that I would sob over, when I had my moment. But we did them all. And I just felt like that was a blessing. Like, I was like, that's God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just nothing else, you know. I had 4 beautiful days with her. And all of those days, they were exhausting because I didn't want to sleep. You never know. You know, I knew I took her home to pass. But there were things I'll never forget. So, you know, she did pass. She was born on November 17th, and it was a cold front that day. And I love the cool weather. And she passed on the 21st, and there was a cold front coming that same day too. So I feel like she kind of came and went with the wind. I don't know. I like to think of it that way. You know, and it was sad, you know, having to give her back. But I felt a lot of peace when, you know, she passed. I felt like, you know what, I got what I needed as a mom, and whatever her will was, whatever God wrote for her, that was her story. He let me borrow her. I protected her as much as I could. I loved her as much as I could. And I continue with the promise that I'm going to see her again in heaven.
Absolutely. I love your perspective that instead of being sad that she passed, you're being grateful for the time that you had with her. Like, it was a gift for you.
Yes.
And healing for you, really.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful way to look at that.
Yeah, it was totally healing. It was a gift of healing, I think, from God, because it's horrible to have to, you know, bury your own child.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something that's normal. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to experience that. But it's very humbling. It makes you think, like, you know, God does have a plan, and I mean, that was her plan, but we just have to be accepting of it.
Yes.
You know, whatever the plan is.
Yes, and I you've already answered this to some extent, but you know, I can't even imagine the situation that you went through. So how were you able to find happiness? You know, all this is happening, and you know, you kind of have to move forward, and how were you able to do that?
So this is what's strange is 4 months after we lost her, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I was like, really?
Another thing, yeah.
You know, I was really upset because I found out on Good Friday, the day before Good Friday. So all of Easter holiday, I told no one. My husband knew, but my family wasn't aware. Nobody knew. I knew. I was really upset. I was livid. I was like, I can't believe you're doing this to me. After I already buried my kid, now you want me to deal with this. But I can tell you, my cancer journey was the most peaceful time of my life.
I
It is
understand that.
the weirdest thing. I just could not believe how the things that I would do, like, you know, I found out I feel significance with days and numbers, and it was the day before Good Friday that I found out. I started chemotherapy the day, a couple of days after my daughter's birthday, my oldest. She turned 7. And every Monday I had chemotherapy, every other Monday, and somehow my husband was always off. Somehow it worked out. I didn't want to be alone during that time. And during that time, I thought of my daughter the entire time. I was like, oh my gosh, like, she wouldn't want to see me wither away, you know? So I just pushed through. I feel like she pushed me through. Did a lot of praying. I'm Catholic, so a lot of rosaries.
I always say having cancer is the closest to God you'll ever be.
It was the most peaceful.
I feel like that's where the peace comes from.
Yes. And then the biggest thing is I always thought, you know, Jesus suffered for me. Why can't I just suffer this short amount of time? Because I know I'm going to get through it. I never felt like I wasn't.
I absolutely remember having that exact same thought.
Yeah.
Yes. Same one.
Awesome.
He suffered, and here I am, and it's
you know, and
a
it's
little
like,
bit. It's a small piece.
Yes. I'm like, he did it all. I can bear my cross at this time, you know. So I did, and like I said, it was the most peaceful time of my life. And although it was sad to see my hair gone,
that's the hardest part, I think. Well, because it makes it real. You can see it, you know?
Yes, your hair is gone. You're bloated from all the steroids. You gain I gained a bunch of weight on the, when the doctor told me, oh, you're going to do chemo, I'm like, oh, well, then I'll lose weight. I try to think of a positive. And he's like, no, breast cancer medication makes you gain weight. And I was like, oh, okay.
It couldn't have one thing, not one thing.
But that all just the breast cancer journey was the most peaceful thing. So I try to think positive throughout treatments.
Mm-hmm.
I try to think my daughter wouldn't want me to, die. What would she, want me to do? She was strong in 4 days, and I can be strong for them, for her, for everyone else. So I just pushed through. I found a lot of peace, and I did. I would do a lot of things like I would do a kindness thing. I listen a lot to KSBJ too, and I would pay it forward. I would donate or
Sure.
anything that would bring joy to anyone, and that really was the best thing. But I mean, I think that's how I
That's good advice.
that's how I coped.
Yes.
I it was the weirdest thing to have to cope through cancer and that, but it just all somehow mingled, and I found peace.
Yes. And like you said earlier to me, it's a choice for you. It's not.
Oh, yes.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's a choice. You have to choose every day to move forward, because your loved ones are not going to want to see you upset, because life is short. So it's important for us to really, really just make the best of it, find joy in everything. I found joy this morning in the birds. I actually love it when spring comes, because you can hear the birds and you can smell the flowers. Like, those are the tiniest things, but they mean the most. Those are the things that you take for granted when you're close to death, I feel, so.
Yes. So if you could share with our listeners one piece of advice, the biggest thing, little nugget of info you could leave them with if they're facing something tragic like you had to go through, what would it be?
Hang on to hope, for sure. Hang on to hope, and then choose joy in whatever's going on in your life. It might be the most tragic thing, but find something that makes you smile, and you can make someone else smile at the same time.
Absolutely.
It does come back. So I think that would be my best advice. Just choose it.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It was
Yes,
beautiful. I got
you're
a little
welcome.
emotional. I know you did.
Sorry.
I know you did.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for listening in to Keyra's wonderful story. Until our next video, I hope to find each of you intentionally choosing joy.